International papers, and Belle Lupton's been reading them for us. Good morning to you, Belle.
Hi there, Tom.
And you've picked out one article about Syria that isn't about diplomacy or the war on the ground.
It isn't. This is an article that doesn't tell the same story that we're seeing a lot in the news about Syria. It's a beautifully written story about one man and his particular experience of the civil war. It's in the New York Times, the International New York Times. It doesn't pretend to explain that geopolitical situation or even what's going on the ground. Rather, it looks at the story, or it gives us an insight into the lives of the rank-and-file government fighters. Now, the paper met this particular fighter when they were on a reporting trip back in April 2014. They stayed in touch with him via WhatsApp, and then suddenly in May 2015 the messages stopped. So this is the story of how they pieced together what happened to him. He belonged to an important subgroup that we don't hear much about, which is the Sunnis who are loyal to President Assad.
And that's quite unusual, right?
Absolutely, because most of them, the Sunni insurgency is the majority of those Sunnis are against Assad. But these are some of those people who stay with him because, as the paper says, if all the Sunnis in Syria had suddenly gone over and started fighting Assad, he probably wouldn't still be in power. The article tells this story with really touching human details. So his favourite tobacco, for example, was apple-flavoured. He was secretly in love with one of his cousins, but was worried he'd never afford to be able to marry her on his police salary. He posted mainly photos of his nephews on Facebook, not political slogans. And we've got a WhatsApp from their conversation there. We can see part of the conversation between the reporter and this man. He says, "Before the events, I was different. I used to be a soccer player, but I haven't watched sports for 4 years. Little television, little electricity." He wasn't particularly pro-Assad. You might think he is, being a loyalist, but he's not. He just saw being loyal to Assad as being patriotic to Syria. He was drafted as a soldier and sent to Palmyra to fight the Islamic State organisation over there. And he kept calling. We have this image of him. He keeps calling from the bus on the way there saying, "We're all going to die. I'm absolutely terrified. This is suicide." And the reporter says, "We'd followed many battles, but Palmyra was different. It was just a new level of brutality." Now, after that first battle in Palmyra, he takes refuge in the house of a family he knew. But after 8 days, he's too scared for their lives because they are in danger housing him. So he takes some robes from them, borrows some robes, and tries to escape. Now, witnesses take up the story from there. What happened was he got caught by Islamic State organisation fighters in a mosque and taken out into the street, where he was beheaded in front of anyone who was in the street at the time. There was no sort of ceremony around the event. His body then lay there for several days. Now, what comes out of this is it's an article really written by people who clearly came to love and respect this man. And it brings home to them, as well as to the reader, the human side to this Syrian war. We think about it in terms of numbers and in terms of political parties, but actually behind every statistic there is a man just like this one.
It's clearly a very moving story, one that's quite often forgotten, unfortunately. But one UK newspaper that has been covering the ordinary lives of Syrians is closing down.
That's The Independent. So the UK's Independent, which from March 26th will move entirely online. So you won't be able to buy the newspaper anymore in print. This was announced by Evgeny Lebedeva, the son of the Russian oligarch Alexander Lebedeva, who is the owner of The Independent. It's a young paper. It started in 1986, and it was at the time the UK's only truly independent quality newspaper. Here's the front page from today of The Independent. And now, although it's a UK paper, papers around the world are talking about this. So Le Monde, for instance, in France, and they're worried because although this is the first, they say it probably won't be the last. That's what Le Monde says. But we should remember it's not all doom and gloom, because out of the new online edition, there will be anything up to about 70 jobs created for those 100 journalists who are thought to have been put out of a job by the print edition dying. And Lebedev insists that this is about innovation. It's about moving newspapers forward. You know, we've seen a huge race in technology, and now newspapers need to catch up with that.
And finally, let's just change the mood slightly and go to the glitz and glamour of the BAFTA ceremony.
Yeah, now you've seen him on the front page of The Independent, but you can also see him on the front page of The Times.
He's everywhere.
He's everywhere. He's on The Times, he's on The Guardian. It's Leo DiCaprio, who was the big winner with The Revenant, as was The Revenant, at the BAFTAs last night. The BAFTAs, of course, the UK's answer to Cannes or to the Oscars. So could this be setting him up for his first Oscar win? Because although he's
I should
widely...
hope so, like,
well,
seriously.
you would hope so. He's widely acknowledged to be one of the best actors of our time, but he hasn't yet won an Oscar, so could this be his first? Same with the BAFTAs. Now, The Guardian has a funny blog on the 10 things we learned from the BAFTAs. First of all, that it's easier to make non-couples kiss than it is to make couples kiss in Hollywood. They had a kiss cam, which was a pretty sort of cheesy thing. Here you go. And they managed to get Leonardo DiCaprio to give Maggie Smith there a kiss. But when they tried to get Michael Fassbender to do the same with his actual girlfriend, Alicia Vikander, it didn't happen. And I think we have a video that shows that actually happening. It's essentially the two of them refusing to kiss on air.
That's not working.
No, that doesn't seem to be coming up. Don't worry, we'll move on, because the next point that they come up with, this Guardian blog, forget Raftgate, if we all remember the end of Titanic, because it does end happily ever after for Jack and Rose, because it was a good night for the two of them, Kate Winslet and Leonardo DiCaprio. Here's the video. Finally, here we go.
We've all been waiting for this.
We get the kiss
That's
of the
Maggie
two of
Smith,
them.
isn't it?
That's Maggie Smith. That's Leo kissing Maggie
Very
Smith.
happy Maggie Smith.
Yeah, with this rather cheesy kiss cam at the BAFTAs. I mean, really something joyful. But no, so to go back to Kate Winslet, she won Best Supporting Actress for her role in the Steve Jobs movie. Finally, one little nod towards the Oscars. Could we see a new hashtag? BAFTAs so sexist, because the BAFTAs, although they nominated Carol for a lot of films, Carol didn't win any films, and all the evening was dedicated to films that were fronted by men, whether it's Tom Hardy, whether it's Leonardo DiCaprio, the Steve Jobs movies. So could we be seeing that new hashtag?
And all eyes moving very quickly to the Oscars very soon.
Of course, yeah, at the end of
Can't
the month.
wait. Okay, Belle, thanks very much for that. We're taking a short break.